Hello and welcome back to another video, so let's begin. Narrator POV. Izuku was digging through rubble with a panicked look as his hands were raw from all the digging. His costume was even more of a mess with no hint of green anywhere to be seen. He had just came back from his final fight and was greeted with the sight of UA burning and everyone dead. Izuku was desperate as he continued to throw one big rock after another to the side. He couldn't lose them too, he didn't want to be alone. However, that hope died as he saw a small charred hand poke out from under a slab. Izuku, no. Oh God, please no. Izuku tossed the slab aside to reveal a charred corpse of a child, but Izuku saw the horn on the head of the corpse. He started shaking with wide eyes as his fears were confirmed. Tears fell from his face as he brought the corpse into a hug. He screamed into the sky as it heard his call and released its own tears. Izuku, no. Izuku, no. Izuku sat up from his bed screaming, causing a little guest to wake up as well but stay quiet. Izuku took deep breaths with pants in between as sweat dripped from his body. He put his head into his hands as he tried to push the memory away and calm himself down. A small hand touched his knee, causing him to back up and whirl his head towards it, causing Eri to squeak as she backed up from Izuku. Instantly, Izuku calmed down to small breaths as he realized he had scared Eri. He offered his hand to Eri, palm up, which she slowly accepted. He pulled her into a gentle hug, which she sunk into and fell back asleep. Izuku tightened the hug as he forced his tears to remain back. Izuku, I will not fail this time. Izuku saw that it was barely 3 a.m. but he decided he had enough sleep for one day. So, he just kept Eri close and just rocked back and forth to help her sleep. Izuku was flipping a pancake with one hand as Eri was standing next to him holding his hand. Since that day, Eri and Izuku always had some form of physical contact with each other, whether it be hand-holding, hugs, sitting on his lap, or sleeping together. Izuku told himself it was to help with her loneliness, but deep down he knew they both needed this. They sat in silence as they ate pancakes with Eri sitting on Izuku's lap. As he was cleaning the dishes, Eri came up to him and held his pant legs as she watched him clean. After he finished, he had an idea and grabbed an apple and handed it to Eri. Eri looked at it confused until she took a bite with stars forming in her eyes. Izuku laughed a genuine laugh for the first time in a long time as he watched Eri devour the poor apple. Izuku was giving Eri a bath, washing her hair with a small smile as Eri looked forward with a dumb look. Izuku laughed as Eri tried to eat the bubbles of the soap, causing her to gag in disgust. Izuku took Eri shopping for clothes as she only had one outfit since it was hard to put little girl clothes if you didn't have a girl with you. So, he was only able to get one in advance before he saved her. Now he had her and was able to get clothes she liked while avoiding any heroes as he knew they probably knew about Eri by now. As the duo were leaving, Izuku saw a poster that made him smile in nostalgia and knew what he was going to do next. 2 weeks later, Izuku and Eri were hand in hand as they walked with a crowd into a ginormous stadium. Izuku, now with his black hair, was wearing a green leather jacket and a white button-down with blue jeans and his forever red shoes. Eri was wearing a white hoodie with the hood covering her hair and face. She had a white skirt on with black leggings and red shoes. They were heading towards their seats with Eri munching on a candy apple. Izuku had asked for time off for a while, and luckily Mr. Yu let him, so he bought tickets to the UA Sports Festival for the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st year events. Their seats were pretty average, somewhere in the middle of the 2nd level. The 1st year to start the show was the 3rd year since they would be out in the streets soon anyway, so this is more like an introduction to future heroes, while the 2nd and 1st years are showcases for future heroes. It wouldn't take as long since they only do the hero courses for the 3rd year since the bring-up method doesn't matter anymore. It was fairly simple battle tournament with the big 3 easily sweeping their classmates. Eri thought it was interesting that all these people fighting were going to be heroes like her savior. She wasn't completely convinced about it since Papa was the only one that ever came for her. Izuku had been teaching her the basics of school, and to his surprise she was a genius. It seems like there were some positive changes in this timeline. She quickly figured out that the heroes knew about her captures and yet did nothing out of the excuse they didn't have enough evidence. Yet they still knew about the crimes they committed. It just wasn't convenient enough. So right now Eri developed a small grudge against heroes, causing Izuku sadness. The only hero in her eyes was Izuku and no one else. Eri, the curious type, also developed Izuku's analytical mind and unfortunately his mumbling as well. However, she truly was a genius, barely 6 years old, and was easily at middle school level. Izuku couldn't be prouder. Mirio and some guy from Mirio's class made their way to the stage for their bout. It was the finals to decide who would fight for first. Izuku, the one with a cartoon face. Eri, his quirk makes it look like teleportation due to his unnatural speed and lack of clothing when he appears somewhere. However, his quirk actually seems to be phasing where he could slip through objects and attacks. It seems strong, but you can tell it took a lot of practice and has its serious drawbacks, evident by the deep breaths he takes before he slips through the ground. A strong combat quirk if trained properly, but not much use anywhere else. The crowd around the girl stared at her in shock as they could tell she couldn't be any older than 6. Izuku, however, stared at her with a proud smile as he rubbed her head, causing her to lean into the hand. Izuku, correct again. Great job, Eri. Eri looked down in embarrassment from the compliments as the crowd around her gushed from the cuteness. The crowd wrote off her analyzing as the girl's quirk and went back to watching the one-sided fight. The third-year tournament ended with Mirio coming out on top with Nejire in second and Amakiji in third. There was a 30-minute recess until the first-year tournament with Eri and Izuku just waiting in their seats, with Eri gushing over the final fight between Mirio and Nejire since their quirks were pretty cool. Soon the first-year festival started with Present Mike calling the classes up. Eri watched them with disinterest since she concluded that since they were younger they wouldn't have that powerful of quirks compared to the third and second years. However, her eyebrows quirked up in curiosity as she looked down on a green-haired boy that looked awfully familiar to her father. Eri turned towards Izuku with a questioning look that he returned with a look that said he'll explain later. The festival started the same with an obstacle race, with it starting the exact same way of Shoto freezing the entrance, with Class 1 and B easily escaping, but Izuku instantly saw the first change in their class. His younger self was using OFA without issue to outpace the others. However, Izuku saw how he was able to use it. Izuku, he's probably around 15% already, but he hasn't figured out full cowling yet. He just had OFA activated in his legs. Very interesting. If he had full cowling he would easily be at 25%. The obstacle race ended the same with Deku winning it. However, Izuku was happy since Eri was actually cheering for his younger self and had an awkward smile on her face. However, she could tell she was getting frustrated from Deku not using his full power, and the same with Shoto not using his either. As the cavalry battle ended, Eri was seething with frustration. Eri, why aren't they using their full power? Izuku, well, first off they're both too stupid. Besides that, the green one would be a broken mess if he tried, and the split one is throwing a teen tantrum. Eri, I understand for the green one, but that doesn't excuse him from not spreading it out throughout his body. Izuku, what to tell him that? Eri, yes. Izuku, okay. Let's go. Izuku and Eri were sneaking through the tunnels for the contestants. Deku's fight with Shinshu had just ended and Izuku was guiding Eri towards the nurse's office. Right when they entered the tunnel, Deku exited the nurse's office. Izuku took a deep breath as he saw his younger self mumble to himself as he made his way back to the student section. Izuku, pretty nasty break you got there. Deku, huh, who are you? Izuku, just a spectator that took his daughter to watch some serious talent. Deku, oh, I apologize, I'm just a little on edge lately. Izuku, it's fine. Pretty neat quirk you got there, an enhancement quirk. Deku, why yeah. I have to limit myself, or like you've seen I break my bones or harm my body. Izuku, I see. I assume you have to work out a lot to increase the amount of power you can use. Deku, yes sir. Izuku, anyways, my daughter here just wanted to tell you something. Eri stepped up, making Deku smile as he crouched until they were face to face. Eri then kicked Deku in the leg, making squirm in pain, and made Izuku laugh. Eri, it was so frustrating watching you struggle with all that power. Why don't you spread your power throughout your entire body? Deku was rubbing his leg and was about to retort until his eyes widened. Izuku smiled as his younger self started to power up until he was covered in the usual green lightning, causing Eri to cheer. Izuku, how does it feel? Deku, amazing. Liberating. I don't know how to describe it. Izuku, what percentage are you at? Deku, I think 22%, but I feel like I could go higher, but I don't want to risk it. Eri, what are you going to call it? Deku, full cowling. Eri, kind of lame, don't you think? Izuku and Deku both gasped in shock at the insult and quickly defended it. The duo said their goodbyes to the teen as they returned to their seats and watched the rest of the tournament. To their surprise, Deku won the whole thing with his new full cowling, easily outpacing both Shoto and Bakugo. The second-year festival wasn't as good as the first year's, but still put on a good show. Plus, Izuku got what he came for, the smile of an angel. The duo went home smiling together as Eri recounted what she saw while on Izuku's shoulders. It's a shame this will be the last time they will be this happy together for a while. The next day, the two were walking to UA with sad looks, with Izuku back in his green hoodie and hospital mask. Eri is in her canon outfit and was holding Izuku's hand as they walked to UA in the early hours of the morning. Last night, Izuku had told her everything from his purpose here and where he is from, and also that he was going to take her to UA tomorrow since he would be too busy to take care of her. She was greatly saddened but understood. That night they just hugged one last time, letting everything out. As they approached the gate of UA, its wall came down in front of him and Eri, but he just flicked it, sending the wall flying and causing sirens to blare to live. Eri and Izuku continued to walk in as they headed towards the main building. They stopped right in front of the building and were instantly surrounded by the entire UA staff and the third years in their costumes and uniforms. No one made a move since they saw a kid was with Izuku. Nu walked to the front with Aizawa next to him with his quirk activated and trained right on Izuku. Nezu clapped his hands together as he stopped a few feet away from Izuku. Nezu, may I ask why the Pillar of Fear is on my campus? Izuku, I thought they called me Justice. Nezu, not after the Yakuza. Izuku, understandable. Izuku gestured for Eri to walk out from behind him since she hid behind him as soon as the heroes appeared. She reluctant did, making the heroes' eyes widened as they realized the situation has grown to something more unpredictable. Aizawa, is that the girl Night I was talking about? Izuku, yes. Her name is Eri, a 6-year-old girl who has been tortured and experimented on since the day her quirk manifested. They were using her blood to make a way to completely erase quirks and would have succeeded if I didn't put it down. Now I can't take care of her anymore and I need you to do it for me. Izuku gave a nod and she returned it with tears as she hugged his leg tight, resulting in Izuku patting her on the head. She reluctantly let go and started walking towards the heroes before stopping by Aizawa's side. Aizawa offered his hand towards her, but she didn't even spare him a glance as she had her eyes on her surrogate father. Nezu, you know we can't let you leave. Izuku, I would hope that you would still try after all you are heroes. Nezu, the people looked up to your group and you repay that rust with a massacre. You lot truly are despicable. I believe none of you have the heart of a hero. Izuku, reputation never mattered to me. It has to be done no matter how vile and villainous it seems. These actions are to ensure your society's future. So stay out of my way because I have barely started. Nezu, sorry. I can't let a murderer out on the streets while my students are out there. Izuku, I understand. All Might landed in front of Izuku, causing wind to blow everywhere, pulling Izuku's hoodie down, but he didn't care anymore. All Might threw a punch at the young man, but Izuku easily caught the punch with green electricity bouncing off him. Just like. Izuku, good, you still have your flame. Izuku released a smoke screen from his body, erupting the area in smoke. Izuku went through the smoke and gave Eri a hug that she gave back. Then Izuku was gone. The smoke disappeared, revealing that Izuku escaped, which caused everyone to curse their luck except Eri, who had a smile. Eri, you fakes will never defeat Papa. Narrator POV. Boom. Izuku launched out of a building as it collapsed on itself before exploding into an inferno. Izuku looked down on the building with a glare in his green hoodie, then took off in another direction at high speeds. It was the dead of night, and for the past 2 weeks Izuku has been destroying anything that FO owned or had control over, whether it be Namu labs and factories, hideouts, businesses, and hospitals. He has also taken care of any person that was under his control or on his payroll, mostly politicians, heroes, police, and businessmen. So far, Izuku has destroyed 40 Namu labs, factories, 20 hideouts, 30 businesses, 5 hospitals, has killed 40 politicians, 200 cops, 50 heroes, and 12 businessmen. Right now, Izuku was heading towards the last location that wasn't the Kamino ward in the bar. Izuku landed in front of a hospital and started to make his way inside. When the staff saw him enter, they instantly started to flee since they recognized him. Izuku made no effort to stop him as he walked towards the center of the hospital before slamming fist on the ground, making the floor collapse, revealing a cavern, which Izuku hopped down into. Izuku saw a lab full of Namu tubs with a small old man furiously typing into his computer in a panic. He was trying to send everything away since he didn't want his research to be gone. Then the computer exploded from an air blast sent by Izuku with a flick of a finger, sending the old man to the floor. He turned to Izuku with fear as he tried to crawl away from Izuku, who was calmly walking towards him. Doctor, please. You don't know who you're messing with. He'll destroy everything you love for all the trouble you caused. Izuku, oh, I know he could, but I'm not worried about that walking corpse. I'm worried about what he's grooming. So, I might as well make it harder for it to become stronger. Oh, and I guess kill it as well. Izuku raised his fist about to kill the doctor when his danger sense yelled at him to dodge, forcing him to backflip back as a blur appeared in front of the doctor. Izuku looked up and sighed as he looked at the hooded Namu. Izuku, Hood. Doctor, oh thank God. Hood, kill that bastard. Hood growled as it tried to form words with Izuku just raising his eyebrow. Hood, are you the strongest? Izuku, yes. Doctor, kill him. Hood disappeared as he charged Izuku, but as the punch was about to land at Izuku's head, Izuku disappeared and Squelch went off behind Hood, causing him to turn around and see Izuku's fist right where the doctor's face used to be. Izuku took his fist out of the corpse of the doctor as he turned towards Hood. Hood charged at Izuku again, but Izuku extended his palm with a little force, causing Hood to turn into a red mist. Izuku, MMH. Guess he wasn't done yet. Izuku turned around and started exploring the facility, destroying everything in his path, whether it be Namus, research, labs, and even experiments. As he was destroying, Nine stepped out of one of the rooms with a loud cough, asking what was happening, but he barely got the words out before his head exploded from an air flick from Izuku's finger. Izuku launched himself out of the hospital as it collapsed on itself before exploding into an inferno like the last building. Izuku landed on a nearby roof and inspected his body at all angles before giving himself a satisfied nod. Izuku, good, I can do more. Izuku flew off as he was satisfied with his progress for now. Tomorrow his past self should be arriving back at UA, taking care of Stain just like before but with less injuries. In a way, he did help a few of his classmates in dealing with crimes. It's a shame it had to be his crimes. In the UA conference room, the UA staff could be seen in a video conference with the Hero Association, the Prime Minister, the top heroes, and multiple rising stars in the hero industry. All had tense faces due to the seriousness of the meeting. Eri was in the corner of the room drawing, pretending she wasn't paying attention due to boredom, but in reality she was listening very intently. She has been hiding her intelligence from the staff since she wanted more freedom as a child than as a prodigy. Also, she didn't feel like getting kidnapped by the Hero Association. Prime Minister, I assume you all know what this is about. Every individual nodded as the Prime Minister pressed a button, making an image of Izuku in each of his hoodies appear in a different situation. Red hoodie snapping a villain's neck. Yellow hoodie fighting a crystal man. Black hoodie choking a villain with black whip. Gray hoodie at the USJ, and the green hoodie fighting a Namu. The temperature in each room went cold as the green hoodie appeared in his picture. Prime Minister. The green pillar has gone on a rampage causing untold carnage and destruction on Japan. Nezu, is there any evidence of why he's doing this? Prime Minister. No, he hasn't said anything nor has anyone gotten a chance to even get a word out of him. Endeavor, description and quirk. All Might. Black messy hair. Green eyes, male, in his late teens or young adult, a extremely strong enhancement quirk. Aizawa, what about the other pillars? Hawks. None have been spotted since the rampage has begun, just the green one. So they are either have been killed by the green pillar or they quit. Hero President. I am here to give you permission to use lethal force against this villain. You are allowed to kill him since he is far too dangerous. He is a danger to our very society. The Hero Association left, causing the Prime Minister to sigh since that president kept forgetting he wasn't in charge of Japan. However, he had nothing to add, so he signed off as well, leaving the pros to themselves. Silence filled the conference as they truly didn't know if they could defeat this monster. How could they defeat someone that could stop the strongest hero's attack with minimal effort? The meeting ended not long after, with heroes not adding much after the two leaders left, because truly didn't even know where to start in finding this guy. Though some special individuals would have a meeting later tonight. Several hours later, everyone that knew about OFA except Night Eye, Deku and Recovery Girl were seen in the conference room once again to discuss more about the vigilante. This time Aizawa had joined them since he was getting suspicious of All Might of favoritism, so they decided to just let him in on the secret. Nezu, any clues on how they know about OFA yet? Aizawa, no. When I asked her, she refused to answer me or just straight up ignored me. Detective, so, still no leads on that then? Aizawa, no. Gran Torino, is he connected to him? All Might, no. I don't think he is, but he defiantly knows about him or has met him. Nezu, I did notice though the green pillar looks exactly like young Midoriya. Same hairstyle and same green eyes. Just one is older and defiantly stronger. All Might, I already checked with Mrs. Midoriya and young Midoriya has no siblings, uncles or cousins. And his father is dead, but I was told he had white hair instead of black. Aizawa, I thought Problem Child said his dad works in America. All Might, that's what his mom told him since his dad died when he was pretty young and didn't want to break his heart. Nezu, still that green lightning. All Might, yes, it was exactly like young Midoriya's full cowling. Nezu, quite a mystery. Izuku landed on a rooftop as the sun started to rise over the horizon. Izuku sighed as he watched the city glow with the rising sun. Izuku sighed as he felt danger sense tell him to dodge, causing him to fall off the roof as an kick barely missed his head, causing a bunny woman to growl in annoyance as Izuku was free falling with closed eyes. He felt danger sense go off again, causing him to twist his body mid-air, letting a sniper bullet barely miss him. Izuku opened his eyes and saw the sniper's glint in the distance as another bullet got fired, causing Izuku to swat it away as he continued to fall. Izuku, deja vu. Several red feathers penetrated Izuku's clothes, launching him into the roof of another building as he got pinned by the red feathers. However, a bored expression was still on his face as Hawks and Mirko landed on the roof with confident smirks. Hawks walked up to Izuku while pulling out handcuffs with his usual smirk. Hawks, Zuko Sawyer, you are under arrest for multiple counts of murder, vigilantism, anarchy, arson, and many more crimes. Mirko, was that really all? The president and prime minister made it seem like this guy was a walking disaster. He barely put up a fight, kinda lame, don't you think? Lady Nagant, just cuff him before he tries anything. He already dodged 2 of my shots, so he isn't a pushover. Mirko, whatever you say. Izuku, Hawks. Hawks stopped a few feet away from Izuku with a confused look as Izuku just continued to stare at the sky. Mirko always raised her eyebrow and started sweating as her animal instincts were screaming at her to run. Hawk's animal instincts were also telling him to run, but instead he froze as waves of killer intent erupted from the downed Izuku. In a blink of the eye, Izuku was right in front of Hawks with green eyes staring right into Hawks' soul, causing him to cower. Izuku, I'll be coming for your boss next. Hawks didn't even get enough time to process before Izuku hit him with an open palm into the chest, launching him into the roof's entrance with a thud, making Hawks a wheezing mess as the air forced out of his lungs. Mirko went for a kick at Izuku's head but only hit air as everything went dark. Izuku had went behind her and knocked her out with a hard chop to the neck. Izuku dodged another sniper bullet with a tilt of his head and glared in Lady Nagant's direction. Nagant was about to fire again, but Izuku disappeared in a blur, causing her to panic even though that was against her personality. Her eyes widened in fear as she felt killing intent grow right behind her as she felt a pressure right behind her head. Izuku, like I told Hawks, next is your boss. Nagant didn't even get a chance to respond before everything went dark. Izuku looked down on the unconscious Lady Nagant before he turned around and flew away. It was night once again and Izuku laid down on a fire escape of an abandoned building as he closed his eyes to fall asleep. Izuku's eyes opened again to what was a void, causing Izuku to groan in annoyance as he stood up. He turned around to see all previous users looking at him with disappointment. First, we need to talk 9. Narrator POV. Izuku stared at the 8 ghosts with an unamused look as they looked down on him from their thrones. It turned into a frown as he scanned the other users and saw they all had disappointed looks. Izuku and the previous users haven't had a good relationship in a long time. They stopped talking to Izuku once the second battle ended in failure. Because of that, Izuku views them lesser since they just abandoned him when he needed guidance. He thought it would change when All Might died, but they remained silent. First, we need to talk 9. Izuku, there's nothing to talk about first, so let me out. Nana Shimura, the 8th user, stood up from her throne with a scowl directed at Izuku, who just stared at her with a blank look. The other users sighed as they wanted to avoid this. Nana, you are taking it too far, kid. You are just causing chaos with all of your destruction. I thought you said you would never take a life. Izuku grew angry at the accusation as he believed they had no right to judge him. To him, they were just a bunch of cowards. Izuku, don't you dare judge me. You would know why I'm like this if you didn't abandon me. But that seems to be your go-to when things get rough. Nana gasped at the remark while the others' eyes just widened, not expecting it. It's true, after the second battle when they tried to separate the two titans. After the failure, the users cut all communications with Izuku, not even knowing what's been happening until one of them decided to see what he was up to. They came across Izuku snapping a politician's neck, thus they decided to intervene. Nana, you son of a... The 5th user, Banjo, wrapped Black Whip around Nana, preventing her from trying to hurt Izuku. Izuku, however, just scoffed at the attempt and crossed his arms. Izuku, so, now you have a problem with killing, even though it was your idea to kill your own grandson, and all of you have all tried to kill AFO. What's so different now? 6th, and you've changed 9th, that's what is different. What happened to you? Izuku, you would know if you didn't disappear for 3 years. The users looked away in guilt as they knew Izuku was right. Izuku knew he was also right as he looked around the void, still very much annoyed. The reason why the users ghosted Izuku for 3 long years is simple. They felt guilty for the failure of the second battle. So, they decided to punish themselves in isolation. What they didn't account for is how that would make Izuku feel. Once they decided their punishment was over, they came across a very different Izuku Midoriya. First, that we can't deny was a bad idea, but that doesn't excuse her actions. Izuku, it wasn't an excuse. I stopped caring about what you guys thought the moment the 1-year mark came around for your abandonment. This needs to happen, so stay out of my way. All Might's vestige looked at Izuku with a sad look as he could barely recognize the boy he met all those years ago. Izuku ignored All Might's vestige since he honestly didn't want to admit he felt nothing for the man anymore, not since his death. Izuku truly was numb. All Might, what happened to the boy to save everyone with a smile? Izuku, that boy saw everyone he saved died in front of his eyes. He realized a smile could only get you so far and would never be enough. What a person truly needs is results, no matter how you get those results. Nana, what happened to the hero that saw the good in everyone? Izuku, that hero stopped finding the good and just saw the worst of the worst, even from the supposed good side. First, what happened to the boy that wanted to be the #1 hero? The hero that would change the world for the better. Izuku, he did reach it in a way. It's a shame the world changed into a piece of shit. There was no one to play hero for, no one to show off that fake smile to, no one to save, no one to love. The hero was alone. The users fell silent as Izuku glared at them, causing the living and dead to stare at each other. The tension was so high you could see the void slowly restrict itself as the two sides stared at each other. The first broke the silence since he was worried what might happen to OFA due to all the pressure. First, why did you accept that God's offer? Why didn't you try to consult us? Second, who knows what that God is planning? Izuku, just like the OFA offer. This shut up the two instantly as they looked at Izuku, who still had his arms crossed with a frown. Izuku, like I said before, there is nothing to talk about. This is none of your concern anymore. I completed OFA's goal, so go to the afterlife or something. Just leave me alone. All Might, we just want what's best for you in society. Izuku, bullshit. You guys believe you did good for society, but you just made it worse. 7 of you don't even exist in the history books, while the 8th made society so weak that it let that bastard destroy everything with barely any effort. And don't dare say you did anything for me. All of you guys did was just die and pass the mess to someone else to clean it up. I don't get that luxury. Instead, I lived and was left with nothing. Izuku was taking deep breaths as he tried to calm himself down. The users just looked away, causing Izuku to get even madder. Thus, he turned his back to them and just started walking towards the void. He ignored the pleas of the vestiges as he forced himself out of the mindscape. Izuku opened his eyes and saw the morning sun stare down on him, causing him to groan. Next on his agenda was to handle some foreign radicals, but he needed to wait for his past self and crew to head to I Island. Plus, he hopes he never has to see those damn ghosts again. With that, see you next time.